In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at this Freight Express HO scale electric train set produced by Lifelike. We're going to unbox it, take a look at everything that's inside, and then we're going to run it. My name is Stan, and let me take a moment to welcome you to the Train Set Collector. So as I mentioned already, we have a Lifelike Freight Express train set here. This one is actually new old stock. It's never been opened. You can kind of see the plastic and the light kind of reflecting off of it there, and it just fell. Well, that was exciting. I have behind this train set holding it up a little Dell mini computer. I honestly thought that it would be plenty enough to hold it up. However, I guess it all depends on the placement. So anyway, as I was saying, you can tell that this train set has never been opened. You can still see the plastic there on it. And I don't really have a whole lot of information as to when this train set came out, MSRP or anything like that. I don't have a lot of catalogs for Lifelike, and HO Seeker only has a few, and I didn't see any there that had this one in the catalog. But from what I can gather, it seems to have been released between, say, 1985 and 1990, or maybe 1991. I do know it's not 1992 because the train set boxes changed considerably in the way that the artwork and everything is designed. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any good detail on that. But like I said, it seems to be a product of about the mid-80s going into maybe around 1990. And the other bit of information I can give you is you can see right here a little sticker. This was actually sold at Michael's, which if you're not familiar with it, most people are though. It's one of those hobby craft type stores. And I don't think they even sell train related products anymore. Hobby Lobby still has a few, but I don't think Michael's does. And this sold for $19.99. So that kind of gives you a general idea of how much it would have sold for, figuring that most places would have sold it for roughly around about that same amount. Maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more. Of course, that's assuming this wasn't a sale price or anything. So anyway, that's really all I've got to go on that. So the artwork I really like. I like the presentation of the box. And typical for train set boxes of the 70s and 80s and going into the 90s, they're very big. They were really designed to have presence when they were on the retail shelf, kind of really jump out there at you. But we have a nice locomotive here. Looks like to be an F unit, probably an F7. And we've got a billboard car. Looks like a stock car, tank car. And imagine that's a reefer and a caboose. And the artwork is showing Burlington Northern. But if you look at our train set here, this one is a Santa Fe. Now, I have not been able to find a train set offered that had this exact setup in there, but I did see on eBay this exact set, but came with Southern Pacific locomotive and caboose. That was really the only difference, though, between this set and that Southern Pacific. The cars were all identical. So that gives you an idea of what you could have expected to find when you were looking to purchase this set back in the 80s, or maybe around 1990. But that's pretty much it for the artwork in the box. And we briefly went over it. We've got a Santa Fe, what I believe to be an F7 locomotive. We've got a boxcar here. It's one of those billboard cars. This one is Vlasic Pickles. And we have a Shell tank car, a Santa Fe open hopper, and I believe that's Great Northern stock car. And we have a Santa Fe caboose, and this one has a cupola. And the other thing you'll notice on the box, it's got some signs, and of course your power supply. All right, well, that's everything we need to really see on the box itself. There's nothing on the back. And if you look at the side, it just basically says Freight Express and has this train set, and that is it. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video. I'm going to rip the plastic off And then we're going to take a look inside. I know some people like to actually see the plastic being ripped off of something new. So I think I'm going to go ahead and film that and put that in the video. Let me know down in the description if you like seeing that or if that's something you can actually do without. So it's kind of wanting to come loose over here on the side anyway. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of lifting up right here. And actually, this was something I got for, I believe it was my birthday. My wife got me this train set, or at least I believe so. It was my wife or one of my daughters. I can't remember for sure. Shame on me, I know. All right, so let's go ahead and start tearing. And that will get the plastic off of the box. And of course, the inner plastic is wanting to come loose. I don't want to tear that part up. All right. Come loose, you bugger. Oh wow, it's pretty stuck to the box. I guess about 30 or 40 years of being set a certain way, you don't want to turn loose. You can see some of the cardboard is sticking to it. All right, so that's got it open. And I believe there was some inner plastic that came with it. I'm not real sure. I don't see it, so maybe not. All right, so we can just go ahead and lift the box off and see what we have inside. And then there's that inner plastic I was thinking about. It just didn't stick. I guess it's either came loose or was just never attached. All right, so this is the inside of the train set. So we'll get a closer look at what's in here. If I can get done fiddling with that plastic. All right, and as we said, here's our locomotive, our freight cars, and our caboose. So up here, we are going to have a little section that has track and our power supply. And everything is just kind of falling out here. So here's our basic power supply. I'm trying to figure out how this is dirty. It's been sealed up all these years. That's just kind of weird. You can clearly see the dust on it. And then all of our track just kind of fell through. It used to be attached by rubber bands. But they have mostly give up the ghost, at least on some of the track. All right, so here is our track that came with the set. It's just your standard Atlas style track that came with most every set back then. By the look of it, I would guess that this is going to be steel track. And this would make an oval. And in fact, if you look right here, 36 by 45 oval. And that's going to be your track. So let's go ahead and set that to the side. And let's lift out this insert here. We'll carefully set that off over there. And this is another insert. And it says that it comes with a 32-page beginner's guide. And another little filler insert. And we'll carefully set those items over there. So we got some additional horn hook couplers. And looks like a couple little connectors for your track. And here is going to be our signs. It said on the box that they were hand painted, and there were 24 of them. And here is our little lead wires that go from your power supply to your track. And then here is the paperwork. So here's your registration card. And then I guess they put all this paperwork together here. So this basically shows you how to get everything set up and ready to go. Probably also includes some troubleshooting, and it does. See that right there. And this is that basic beginner's guide that comes with it. So it looks like they may have potentially sold it separately for $1, but it's free here. And here is a toll-free number that you can give a call to if you are having some trouble with your train set. Nothing else on the box. And I guess some sort of an advertisement. Motorized car. I'm not real sure what that is. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Hot Wheels track. Not sure what that is, actually. If anybody's familiar with these, let me know down in the comments. I'm curious. All right, so let's take a quick look. Here's our caboose. Packaging looks really nice. Our stock car. Open quad hopper. Tank car. Our billboard box car. These things are actually quite collectible. Not rare or anything, at least not this particular one. But billboard cars, especially from Lifelike and Tyco, are quite collectible. And here is our locomotive. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the video, and I'll go ahead and get these out of the boxes and set them off to the side and kind of straighten up a bit. Then we'll take a closer look at each item, and then we'll run the train. So I've already got everything out of the box. You can see it all laid out here. But I didn't want to remove all the packaging just yet. I kind of wanted to show you what the packaging looks like. Now, if you've been in the model railroading hobby for a while, you're very familiar with what this is going to be. But if maybe you're new or just curious and haven't seen it, this is what it'll be. So your freight cars typically always came in a standard box. They also would sell these individually at the retail level, and so you could always identify them by what's on the end here. So that would be your model number, and then it would have S/D boxcar, and then Vlasic to indicate that it was a Vlasic boxcar. All right, and then go ahead and put it back in here. The boxcar itself, or any freight car, will be just in this little plastic cradle, and then you just lift it straight out. Now, really, these aren't the best of protection, but for these old school freight cars, it's decent enough because they were very basic in their detail and are not as fragile as some of the highly detailed freight cars we have today. Locomotives are pretty much the same story, very similar type of box, but they would have a little bit of additional protection in the sense that this one is inside of a styrofoam cradle. And this worked pretty good for the era, though you're not going to really see high-end locomotives. Not saying this is high-end at all, it's not. But high-end locomotives today will not be shipped in something like this. So I'm going to kind of squeeze it to keep it from falling out. And it's open on the back, but not to the point where it can fall out, which is really nice because if it gets kind of stuck inside, you can just kind of reach back through and push it up and out. Just like so. But I'm going to just turn it over. Let gravity help. Ooh, squeaky. All right, so let's go ahead and set this off to the side here. So the first thing I'm going to get out of the way is these old train set freight cars were very, very basic in their level of detail. So we'll go over that, but I just want to get that out of the way right quick. So here is our Santa Fe caboose. And right away you can see that it has got horn hook couplers, and this has plastic wheels. And then the coupler is mounted to the truck. and it's very tight. This one's a little bit better. That may cause issues when running. We'll see. Now this does have a little bit of separately applied detail, but most everything, like this grab iron here and here, is all molded in. Got a little bit of reflection there. But this end here, the ladder, the railing, the brake wheel on both sides, that's a separately applied piece, as is this smokestack right there. Now we have our stock car. It's going to be the same story with the couplers, horn hook, and the plastic wheels. Got a little bit of molded in detail on the bottom that looks pretty nice. And you have doors that will open. I can get a hold of it. Open and close, like so. But your ladders and everything are molded in. And this is really your only separately applied piece, and that's the brake wheel. But these stirrups can easily be broken, so you have to be careful with those. The tank car is one of the exceptions for having separately applied details. Nothing has changed with our coupler and our wheels, but you can see we have a metal railing that goes all the way around, and we have a ladder, and then we have our brake wheel. So that gives a little bit of extra detail that you might not, or that you're not normally going to get on freight cars of the time. And the printing is very nice, and I failed to mention that on the others. So far, the printing on all these cars looks great. So here's our quad open hopper, and this is Santa Fe. Again, on the bottom, same story. Separately applied brake wheel. I think the printing looks really nice. It's sharp and crisp. And you can buy aftermarket coal loads or whatever to put in here to make it look a little more realistic and add a little extra weight if you want. And this will be the highlight of the train set. We've got this Vlasic Pickle billboard boxcar. This door does open, but it's very tight, so I'm not going to force it. So we have the same story again. Plastic wheels, horn hook couplers, basic detail on the bottom. Separately applied brake wheel, but everything else, like this ladder and brake detail, is all molded in. Other side is pretty much identical. Molded in roof walk. But this door is a little bit easier. You can see how that opens and closes. Well, maybe. But yeah, the artwork or the print on here is really, really nice. And like I said earlier, this is something that a lot of people like to collect, especially those who are like in my age group and grew up with this stuff. Really enjoy collecting these old billboard cars. All right, and so that brings us to our locomotive. So we have a Santa Fe F unit. I believe this is an F7, but this one is actually designed for passenger use because we've got a steam generator back here. So all your detail is molded in, but everything looks nice and crisp on the side. And this has what we call a pancake motor, so it's only driven from these front wheels. Looks like it has, does it have? Yep, traction tires here, and looks like here, and this is where your power is going to be picked up. And you got your horn hook couplers. Nice molded in detail. Pretty basic on the back. And it's got glass actually inside. Some of the old school ones didn't have that. We got two headlights here and some nice print work here. Pretty much same here. And we got separately applied horns, and everything else is molded in. This is going to be your exhaust fans. And if I'm not mistaken, this will be your dynamic brake. All right, well, that is a look at everything that came with the train set and a little bit more of a detailed look of the freight cars and the locomotive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up and pull some track over here, and we're going to first test out the locomotive and see if it runs, because believe it or not, even though this is new old stock, there's a high probability this won't run straight out of the box. All right, so give me just a moment and I will be right back. All right, so I've cleared everything out of the way and have pulled over a loop of track to test this train set on. Now, as you can tell, this is not the track that came with the train set. This is a loop of standard Bachmann Easy Track that came out of my last video, the chassis special. And I figured I would just go ahead and use this. It was still set up and easy to get to. And also, when it comes to these old vintage sets from the 70s, 80s, and maybe even to the 90s, these things are 30, 40, 50 years old. I'm not a big fan of using those old power supplies. I'm not sure of the quality of those power supplies when they were new, so I'm just not going to risk it on these, old vintage sets. And when it comes to the track, I've found they just don't stay together very well. They're very easy to come apart, and it just gets very frustrating. So this Bachmann Easy Track, it's not coming apart. So, all right, so that out of the way, let's take a look at this locomotive and let's see if it will actually run right out of the box. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to set it on the track here. If I can get it on the track. I think that's got it. All right, so let's see if it will run. I have not tried this yet, so I've got my little basic Bachmann power supply here. So let's give it a go. And that is on full and there's no movement. So let me back it down a bit. And we have nothing. Give it a little bit more power. I just don't want it to come alive and then fly off the edge. Nope, nothing. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and kill the camera and give this a little bit of light maintenance, mainly just clean the wheels. I think I just saw that thing move. Just a tad. Let's see. Come on. I felt it. Sometimes with these old lifelikes, once you can get them going, they'll go. But I'm guessing we have got some dirty wheels. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the power off and we'll cut the video right here. So I'm part of the way through cleaning the wheels and I thought I would kind of just briefly show the process, not in any real detail, but you can see I've cleaned one side. I've cleaned this side here and you can tell that it's definitely brighter than over here. In fact, if you kind of look at the wheel flange right there and then look at it here, you can definitely see it's a lot brighter. There was basically about 30, 40 years worth of corrosion on these wheels. These are just brass wheels. So what I use, and I think I'll do a video on this in the future, just to kind of show this process, is I use, people call them track brights or bright boys. They look almost like a pencil eraser, or when you were in school, remember you'd have one of these little erasers in your backpack and just erase your pencil marks. It looks a lot like that, but it's got a mild abrasive in it. You can kind of see it right there. And then what you do is you just get yourself an edge. You can see here that corrosion that's come off, and just kind of hold your wheel still, because these are free rolling, so you're not going to get very far if you don't hold it still. And you just put this right here and just rub it back and forth a little bit, and then you can already see it brightening up. And then you just kind of give it a turn and keep going just like so. So I'm going to complete this off camera, but I just thought I'd demonstrate that real quick. So I cleaned the wheels. They're all much shinier than what they were, and you can see I got quite a good bit of crud off the wheels. They were quite dirty and corroded. All right, so I've got our locomotive back on the track, so let's see if it runs now. Well, it tried to go. Oh, well. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Come on, there we go. Oh, you can't see it. It'll come back around. But it's working. Let's put it in reverse. Kind of have to tap it along here. Get a little more speed. Come on. You can do it. There we go. Uh-oh. There it goes. And again, I know you can't see it, but you can hear it running. All right, so looks like the cleaning of the wheels did the trick. That was all we needed to do. And now we're up and running. So I'm going to go ahead once again and stop the video, and I'm going to give this a little bit of a run-in so that it'll hopefully perform as good as it can when we actually run the entire train. So basically, I'm just going to run this in about 15 minutes forward and about 15 minutes back at about half speed. Just let everything kind of break in and loosen up, and get warmed up and ready to go. So let me go ahead and do that. And when I come back, we'll run the full train and wrap up the video. So I've run it in just a little bit just to warm it up. I only ran it about 5 minutes in each direction just to kind of loosen everything up a bit. So I'm now freehanding it, and let's give the locomotive a try. And then once we give it a quick go and do a couple little things with it, we'll put some cars behind it. There we go. It takes right off, which is nice. That's a lot better than what it did earlier. You can see a light inside there. So it's running pretty good. So let's see how it does in reverse. We'll flip our little switch here. And again, takes right off. These old lifelike locomotives can run half decently, especially considering their age and construction. But they're fairly easy to maintain and keep running. Just a little finicky is all. I don't know if you can see that light. We'll go one more time here and see it shining in there a bit. So here is its max speed. We'll do the same going forward. I don't like doing that too much. I don't need it to fly off the end. But we can actually get it down to a somewhat respectable slow speed. Not going to win any awards or anything, but it's not too bad. Nice and slow there. All right, so let's hook up some cars. I've got the full train on the track here. And you can see we have our Vlasic Pickles box car. And again, to me, that's really the highlight of the set. And then we have our open hopper. We've got our stock car, our tank car, and finally, bringing up the rear, we got our caboose. Now, I don't know if you remember me earlier mentioning about that tight truck, but this thing seems to be really easy to pop off the track. I actually removed that truck and put a little light oil on it just to maybe hopefully make it move a little easier. And it did seem to help, but it's still stiff as compared to all the rest of these cars. So hopefully it stays on the track. All right, so let's make a couple of laps and wrap up the video. We're going to keep it slow in the hopes that that caboose will stay on the track. Here she comes around, looking pretty good in my opinion. Nice old vintage train set. It's our life light. There, I think you hear it. It popped off. Let's see if it corrects itself when it comes around to this terminal re-railer. And it did. Awesome. I imagine more so than that truck is it just needs a little extra weight. The one downside to these old vintage train sets is the freight cars are very underweight, made them very light and easy to pull off the track. All right, well, that is a look at this Lifelike Freight Express train set. Let me know down in the comments what you think of it. And if you had this train set when you were a kid or picked one up since then, let me know. I'd like to hear about it. If not, do you have another Lifelike train set? Again, drop a comment and let me know all about it. All right, if you enjoyed taking a look at this unboxing and running of this old vintage Lifelike train set, make sure and do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe, and if you know someone that's interested in vintage train sets or vintage trains in general, give it a quick share. I would certainly appreciate it. Well, until next video, happy model railroading, guys. Take care.